This week's sponsor is Jeff from the War for the Tower podcast, an actual play RPG podcast set in the world of Stephen King's Dark Tower. If you're a Dark Tower fan, and especially if you're a fan of Unspoiled Dark Tower with me and Miles, you'll love the epic gameplay and storyline. If you're not, Shattered Worlds RPG is a space opera actual playtest of Jeff's own role-playing game. It's a fun mix of magic, gunplay, and robots. Check both out on your podcatcher of choice. Search for the War for the Tower podcast or Shattered Worlds RPG. This is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Some Spoiled, A Song of Ice and Fire 2. The co-host switcheroo. The rereading. Return to Westeros. HBO's spoiler edition. Uncut, uncensored, and too hot for TV. Bringing you the greatest hits from 1996. Call in with your requests now. We will ignore them. In this episode, we are covering chapters 53 and 54. Bran and Daenerys. In these chapters, Bran is having a hard time. And it's all the worse to read because we know that he is correct to be as worried as he is.
It's true.
Daenerys almost gets poisoned. And Drogo doesn't like it.
No, he doesn't care for it at all.
Welcome to Some Spoiled.
Monsters are dangerous, and just now kings are dying like flies.
I am the king!
Fuck the king.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha.
I'm Rashawn.
Alright, so these two chapters. You said before we started, nothing happens in these chapters.
I know, I was full of shit.
Bran is like a much more slow-moving chapter. It's a lot more introspective than the previous ones. What did you think of this and the assembling of the men?
It's a funny thing, too. Like, earlier in the week, one of our friends of the show, Ryan Reisman.
I knew this was going to come up.
Did you see?
I sure did. Hi, Ryan.
I enjoyed it so much. So for those who are listening who are not friends with us on Facebook, Reisman shared a meme, and it's like this guy yelling in this woman's ear, and she looks like unimpressed and uninterested.
It's like at a party and clear that he should not be having this kind of conversation in the setting that they are in.
And his caption was about the Karstarks.
It's like a full paragraph and a half of just Karstark information.
And I laughed so hard when I read it, initially, the post, and then to get to this chapter, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yep. It was honestly very useful information that I have mostly forgotten, but I'm sure I will remember. I
really am looking forward to, especially because, on a side note, there's some show in development that is A Song of Ice and Fire, but it's like pre the story that we already got. So it's going back several hundred years, I think.
Is it World of Ice and Fire?
Maybe.
I feel like it had a generic name like that.
But it's like it's going back to like the Targaryens and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm really excited about learning more about the other families and their histories in this world. Ooh, sorry.
What is going on?
In a way that like I didn't learn from the show. So this Bran chapter where he's talking about all the different houses in the north, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. This doesn't really necessarily move the plot along, but I like hearing all the different houses' names and their sigils and like who's who. Mm-hmm. And so the Bran chapter is Robb has called his banners.
Yes.
Right. So all the people from the north are like, coming to Winterfell in getting ready to march to the Riverlands to deal with the Lannisters because of, we all know what happened. Right. And there's a great...
We know, but it should be mentioned that they don't. Like, all the messages that they've been getting have been completely muddled, and some of them are saying that their sisters are dead already, and some, all the info they're getting is... Nothing is set in stone until they get Sansa's letter.
Right. They don't know whether Eddard is still even alive, what's going on with Cat. Some letters say, that Cat killed Tyrion and, hung his body outside of the Vale.
I swear to God, that is so funny to me. I just love that whole idea. Like, that Cat would have,
what if she had done that? We would have an entirely different story.
It would be a very different situation. Yes, indeed.
I'm low key mad that's not what happened.
And there is a point at which I'm sure it's like, I should have cheated. Where it's like, well, everybody's acting like I did it. I may as well have done it.
I should have just fucking did it. Mm-hmm. But, And what's happening at Winterfell is all these people, all the houses are showing up because they've been called, and Bran and Rickon, especially Rickon, are dealing with the fear of Robb leaving, which is really well founded.
Yep.
And there's a bit where Bran is thinking about how all these people went south. And none of them came home. Mm-hmm. And we know that Robb is not coming home. Catelyn's not coming home. Ned's not coming home.
Yeah.
Right? But to read this bit before everything goes to shit, you're just like, oh, you want to make it be something different. Mm-hmm. I wish I could rewrite a couple chapters so that the awful things that I know that are coming don't happen.
You want it to be one way, but it's the
right.
Other way.
Basically, look at Marlo popping his head in. How funny is Candace watching The Wire? By the way,
oh my God,
looking at those, so good.
It makes me want to go back and rewatch, and then I'm like, why would I do that to myself?
Oh
my God,
absolutely starting to rewatch, and I'm going to do it while I'm on vacation this week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely going in. But so all this activity is happening at Winterfell, and Bran is feeling there's a lot going on with Bran. There's a lot of talk about how, because at this point in the story, he's got the hookup where he's not on Hodor's shoulders. It's like this basket situation, which I can't remember if we see in the show.
Oh, yeah, definitely in the show.
Do we have the basket?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I remember the sort of sled deal where Hodor was carrying him that way.
But that's on the road.
On the road,
in
yeah. In
Winterfell, it's the basket because there's so many stairs and stuff.
Well, yeah, and that's what we get in these chapters too. And there's a moment where, oh my God, he goes to because Robb is having dinner with important people. Mm-hmm. And so Bran has to be the lord in the dining hall. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And he's taken to his seat and he's put down, and then he can hear, and I think it's Karstarks, and they're like, oh, I would never live like that. Yeah. He must be too craven to even kill himself. Mm-hmm. Imagine, he doesn't even have the dignity to kill himself.
Yep.
What?
Must be broken inside as well as outside.
Right? And that's what he starts thinking, is that what I am? Am I Bran the Broken?
Ugh. Poor Bran.
It's hard to read, y'all. It's hard to read. But he holds his little court the way he's supposed to, but he is acutely aware of how people look at him. Mm-hmm. And I love there's one moment where he says, there's no mocking when he's in bed, but he's not going to live his life in bed.
Yeah, that's a really good line. Because, I mean, I think we've all been there, right? Where we're just like, you know what? I'm just going to hide out. I'm just going to stay here where it's safe and nobody can, like... And then you just really start to realize, I mean, I guess I could do that.
Yeah,
but, like,
what kind of life is
that?
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's do some, like, actual chapter incident coverage because we're just jumping all over the fucking place. We start off with, like, Robb going down into town, which, reminder, the town on the outskirts of Winterfell is the winter town, so it's just, like, empty most of the time when everybody's on their farms. And then as the weather begins to get colder, everybody begins to pull in towards the castle. So it is packed right now. And Maester Lewin
bustling.
Says that there's like 12,000 men here at this point. But a lot of them will be leaving shortly. So they got to skedaddle before they fucking eat everything in sight. And
I love, too, that Bran is talking to Maester Lewin about, very specifically, how many knights are here.
Yes. And Maester Lewin has no patience for this.
Not at all. He's not
out.
impressed with knighthood at all. He's basically like, fuck that shit. That's some South shit.
I
We don't do
love
that up
this.
here.
This reminds me of like hillbillies and cops. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
With the like, there's like this sort of cop worship that can happen when you think about like a lot of conservatives. But if you go into like a hick enough area, cops
they
are the
don't
enemy.
fuck with cops at all. I love that. I love that.
So it's sort of like they are. You've gone too far north, and they are not about that. They don't. They're like, no. They actively work against us and everything that our families have ever valued, and we don't fuck with them. And the fact that you like want to be one of them, I find actively distasteful.
Right. I love it. He's like, in order to be a knight, you get like anointed, and you know the septs are the ones that knight you, and he's just like, we don't. Those aren't our gods.
We don't do that here.
Why would we need them to fucking do any of that? And Bran is just like, but it's cool though to be a knight. And Maester Lewin is just like, look, our people are as good as any of the knights. They, wield a sword just as well. And we don't have to have a sir in front of their name to make it, mean something.
Right.
And I feel like that's a life lesson. It's not always about the fucking title.
It's hard though when you're like somebody like I am also like this where I want it official though. Okay, yeah, I'm a good fighter, whatever. But like, did anybody sign a paper saying that I'm like the best fighter? No? Then I don't really feel like I've done anything.
You want Brienne to write your name in a book at the end?
Yes! I need validation that will, like, withstand scrutiny. I can't just be like, I'm the best, trust me. No, I need, like, sources to cite that I can show in my MLA format and be like, these are the people who vouch for me. So I feel like Bran is kind of that way also. There's a part of him that's just like, I like rules. I like things to make sense. I like there to be boundaries that I understand and that we can all agree on. And I really sympathize with that.
Right. It just feels right to you.
It does. Look, I love authority. I'm so anti-authority, but at the same time,
it's a weird place to be, right? I'm very similar in that way, where I'm just like, fuck you, you ain't in charge of me. And then also, are you in charge?
Listen to the experts. Fuck the experts. What do they know?
So after Bran is done, because he's kind of like up in the tower watching, all the bannermen come, and he's naming the different houses. Oh, and there's a bit with him and with Robb, because Bran wants to go into town, and Robb is like, we can't spare guards for you right now. We're in the middle of some shit.
Yeah.
And what's happened since last we were in this POV is that Robb says some of Bolton's men stabbed or killed someone named Serwins.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right? It's some inn or something. And
one of Lord Bolton's men knifed one of Lord Serwyn's at the smoking log. Yeah.
So this was confusing to me because both of those houses are northern houses and are being called to Winterfell.
Right.
So I wasn't sure what to make of that. Like,
I think it's just meant to be like they've gotten a bar fight and it's just dangerous, and you just having Summer with you is not adequate.
Okay.
You
All
know?
right. So like things are just kind of like a little bit crazy right now, and people are all right. Because later on, there's talk about how different houses are vying for like battle commands. You know, and some people are bribing, some people are like trying to bully.
My daughter.
Some people are bringing daughters. And there's this whole moment with Robb and Great John where he's just basically like, fuck you and fuck your couch. And Robb has, he just what's Robb's wolf name?
Grey Wind.
Grey Wind. He gives a command and Grey Wind takes like 3 fingers. And then after that, Great John is like, you know, his right-hand man.
I love that so much. That's one of those things that feels like very genuinely how it would work out, but also it's mystifying to me.
It's such a weird turn, but you're right. It feels like people like this, like warriors and like, you'll forgive the term, like super alpha male type guys would respond in this way.
Yeah.
Which is why that whole mentality is garbage and you shouldn't like subscribe to it.
Indeed. Yeah, this is not like meant to be like, oh, see how well this works.
Yeah, right?
This
like,
man lost fingers. It didn't need to be like that.
Like, he's super well adjusted. I want him with my This is not the appropriate response to having your fingers gnawed off by a fucking wild wolf, but I guess. But yeah, so he's like, and I remember from the show that Great John is like, kind of like a ride or die up until things get really, really bad. But I had completely forgotten that he lost some fingers.
Yeah. And yeah, I should mention, like, Roose Bolton coming up here. I think this might be one of the first times that he's mentioned. I don't feel like we actually see him.
There's just a mention of how him and someone else want to be in command.
Right.
And then there's later on when Robb is talking to Bran privately, and he says something about how he seems like he's always like smirking. And it's like a feeling of distrust, but it's not explicitly said.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really interesting because we know later on that he's definitely not somebody to be fucking trusted. And this is absolutely the first time we hear about, like, their banner being the flayed man, and then, like their hold is called the Dreadfort.
So this was what I was thinking of. Remember I told you that the Gregor Clegane had a, like, house it had a name that was so on the nose that it was hilarious. I was thinking of this. The Dreadfort with the Boltons. And it is honestly just sort of hilarious to me. Like,
it tells you everything you need to know about them, right?
It just,
like, it's all in the
feels
name.
too much. It feels like you didn't need to. You could have just been like the Bolton Fort, and then you just rely on the rest of your reputation. You don't need to put dread in there. That's a little bit too on the nose.
These type of people that the Boltons are, of course that's what they named it. Like, it probably had a much more reasonable name, and they were like, nah, we're gonna call this shit the Dreadfort.
Yeah, maybe it used to be called just like Michael's Fort, and Michael, he just like took people's pinkies and gradually became like, no, we're gonna fucking fully skin them alive. And Michael was like, well, we're going to have to change the name of this place.
We're going to need a new name, right?
That doesn't work with what I was doing.
The awful fort, the you don't want to be here fort, the things suck here fort, the dread fort.
Oh my God, the you don't want to be here fort. Try Jesus, don't try me fort. Because I'll flay.
Man.
Anyway.
So Bran goes out to the Godswood after he's done watching like all the banner people come up, and he sends Hodor off to like the warm springs because apparently this motherfucker does not like take a regular bath.
Mm-hmm. Which, listen, it's freezing cold up there, and I sympathize. I am in Texas right now. It's 20 degrees outside.
That is fucking fair.
We do not have, like, water that is safe to bathe in right now. And I would give anything for a hot, like... Help me. Anyway, okay.
And while Bran is there, there's a bit about how... Bran has, since the accident, felt more and more drawn to the woods and like communing with God, and I don't know if we are supposed to, as readers, be like, is this like
anything,
you know, like because he's had the dream, you know, about the crow,
right?
And is this an extension of that, or is this just sort of a very human reaction to a bit of a tragedy that has befallen you?
Right.
You know, I'm not sure which exactly it's supposed to be just yet, but it's clear this is where he feels like he can come to think, and he feels very close to the gods and feels like this is where he can ask for help. Mm-hmm. And then, Osha shows up, and
he's like praying, and she's like, "Oh, they don't hear you. I mean, they hear you, but they're not doing shit for you because he's going somewhere they can't reach." So
basically,
like,
right?
Sorry to be the one to bear bad news, but your brother is really screwed.
She's like, they're answering you, and he's like, "That's just the wind," and I feel like she's just like, the fuck you think wind comes from, though? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think this is?
The doy.
Right? She's looking at him like, did your parents didn't teach you nothing? But yeah, eventually she ends up telling him that where your brother is going, the gods can't even watch because they have cut down all those trees. Like, they don't have eyes to see. Mm-hmm. And something about that really struck me because... Not to get into a whole long thing, but like if you have ever struggled with religion or faith, you know, you can have a moment where it really does feel like what you're praying to or what you're praying about, who you're praying to can't reach you, you know, like how can they help you? They're so far removed from your lived experience. And she rolls up like, in a very literal sense, she is saying they cannot help him down there. Yeah. They have no power there, you know? And it makes the South feel that much more alien, that much more hostile, because the old gods don't have any sway down there, you know? Mm. It really, really drives home the sense of, yeah, stars go south and they don't come home for a fucking reason.
Yeah. Yeah, they're out of their safe zone.
Mm-hmm.
And her, basically the conversation, like, goes to her talking about the whites. And she doesn't say specifically that, but she just is like, yeah, men are rising from the dead with blue eyes and black hands, and they're just, like, fucking shit up. And... she says that she tried to tell Robb, and he just wouldn't hear her. And so Bran is like, well, tell me, and I'll try and get him to listen. And she's like, tell him he's marching the wrong way.
Yep. It's true, too, y'all.
Yep.
It took us, like, you know, however many seasons to get to it, but it turned out to be fucking true.
Mm-hmm. So, you know, Bran does talk about it with Maester Luwin, who's just like, you can't listen to that crazy bitch. And, it never actually, like, he doesn't get to have the conversation with Robb, really.
Yeah, no.
Which
And
is
it's
tragic.
It is tragic. Not that I believe Robb would have listened to him, but there's something about knowing where this goes, and seeing these moments and wanting to, like, shove your hand into the book and wring their neck until they listen. You know, it's a really weird sensation to just be like...
There's got to be a German word for it.
I'm going to learn it.
That's true.
So, Robb ends up leaving. We find out that Rickon, throughout this whole thing, is not here for Robb leaving. And
Rickon is fucking feral, man.
And I'm reading this chapter, and they're talking about how he cannot be consoled. He's screaming, he's crying, he's so wild. Even his wolf is like, has to be like locked up because it's wild too, and it's biting people and all kinds of shit. And then there's this throwaway line where it's like, and he's going to be 4 soon. I was like, this motherfucker is 3 years old. Of course he is freaking out.
I mean, I don't know what Robb was like at 4. That's the thing that makes me very sad. Is like, was Robb a fucking little soldier?
I mean,
because I bet he was.
Oh, Lord Robb. He's this, whenever Bran is like, oh, it's Lord Robb speaking. It's just like, oh, that's so shady. There's a when they're talking about Robb. And they mention his age in this chapter, and he's not even 16 yet.
No, he's 15, yeah.
That's so fucking nuts to me. He's 15, and he is about to ride into battle.
Yep.
He's 15. What are we doing?
What's our age limit to join the army?
18.
Okay.
18 to like 27, I think it used to be.
Okay.
Maybe it's 24.
Because I know that it had been 16 for a minute there. But I don't know how long ago that was.
I know that there are stories going back to World War II where people lied about their age to get into the to the service. Like 16 and 17-year-olds would lie about how old they were.
It's so weird to think about a time where you could do that to, like, a government agency. Like, good luck getting away with that now. You gotta, like, hack shit and, you know, be an expert Photoshop. Like, but back then you could just be like, oh, no, that's wrong. That file's wrong. Here, let me rewrite that for you.
Take my word for it.
Give me an eraser.
When I was doing my Ancestry.com, I came across so many draft registrations, and they really were just like crossing out numbers and writing other numbers. And you're just like, how is this the official record?
Oh, it says 17 with parental consent.
And
up to 35. Maximum
oh, 35?
Yeah.
Yikes. I still missed that window. That's a shame.
What a shame. I feel like there was something else in that conversation with Robb. I do really love, after the whole thing with Great John, that Robb is like, oh my god, I almost pissed myself. Holy
he was terrified.
Shit. I really
thought he was going to kill me.
Oh, Robb, I'm so sorry, babe. You're doing really well. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
It is pretty remarkable that he held his composure in the moment. And there's something very sweet about him sort of coming up to Bran's room late at night to, like, confess, you know, how overwhelming all this is. Because it ends basically with him being just like, God, I wish Father was home. You know, like, this is a lot on his plate as a teenage, you know, boy who's the head of his family's household now, like Lord of the Manor and all that jazz.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where Bran is talking, because Bran really doesn't want Robb to leave either. And everyone has counseled Robb to be like, you should legit stay home and just send people. You know,
and
send your
like,
bannerman out.
My dad wouldn't do that. And I'm like, yeah, where did that fucking get him, dude?
Exactly. And it's, you know what, this sense of honor that Ned Stark has bestowed on his children, right? This very rigid sense of what an honorable man does and what he doesn't do. He has chained his children to this ideal, you know?
Yeah.
To their detriment.
Mm-hmm.
But when we first meet in the very, very first chapter, the first thing we see Ned Stark talking about is how, you know, like if I'm laying down a sentence, I have to wield the sword, you know? And it's just so incredible to me what and how much damage parents could do to their children. You know?
We talked about this before we
You
started,
know?
guys. Hence me bursting out laughing because I knew where this was going to go.
But he, and when they get Sansa's letter, Robb is furious because there's no mention of Arya. But there isn't any conversation about why she would have written this letter. He's just mad that Arya's not mentioned. But I'm not sure if I'm clear on whether or not he thinks that she is under duress.
It doesn't really sound like that has occurred to him.
You know?
Yeah.
He's just really pissed off at her for writing this letter and for not, updating them on her sister. But the rest of it, it's I don't know if he just hasn't thought about it clearly, or maybe it just comes up later, or, I'm not sure. But it's so clear that we are dealing with a bunch of children.
Yeah, yep.
And forgive me for referencing the show, but in a way that the show really wasn't able to convey, because they had, aged up all the characters, with the actors. So you lose, I think, just how young they all are.
Agreed.
And how they just don't know what the fuck they're doing. The thing with Robb's storyline in the show, as frustrating as it was to watch him bumble through all this, or bungle rather, not bumble, but bungle through all this. You always got this sense that he knew what he was doing, or at least, you know what I mean? We were supposed as the audience believe that he knew what he was doing. Mm-hmm. But when you read it...
Okay, you gotta stop pounding the desk.
Oh, sorry. When you read it, it's so clear that, he's so in over his head.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that was missed a little bit on the show until, the very end, when it was oh, this motherfucker doesn't know what he's doing at all. And it's too late.
I think that for me, the first time reading it, I really had faith that this was going to be... Yeah, he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's doing well enough right now at, faking till he makes it, that it will be enough to carry him until he does know what he's doing. I really thought that this was going to be the kind of story where people were allowed to grow, and despite their mistakes, and instead it's the kind of story where mistakes have very real and immediate consequences, it's not for... This isn't an experiment. We're not playing. And that's what I was very used to. So the fact that he didn't know what he was doing didn't worry me that much the first time around, because I was well, yeah, we have to see him be bad at this, so that then when he starts to nail it, it'll be all the more interesting to watch. And so when he has this moment with Great John Umber, I was see, there it is. He's starting to nail it. We're on our way. And thus, what happens to him came as even more of a shock.
Oh, poor Robb.
Poor Robb, indeed. So, yeah, it ends with, basically, Rickon is, hiding in the crypts and there's a whole thing where, Shaggy Dog attacked a couple of their own people because they tried to go down there and get him. Rickon is not available.
No, not at all. He's just not here for any of this.
Yeah.
And I think Robb and Grey Wind have to go down to the crypts to get them out, because they're just because no one else could do it.
Mm-hmm. And they wind up all leaving, all of the men, and Bran is just left with the children and the women, And he's just he's having a hard time with the fact that, like, he's supposed to be in charge here.
Yeah.
He's the lord of the fucking house, and he has no idea what he's doing. He's 7 years old.
Yep.
He's disabled now, so that adds a factor of, like, lack of respect that people are going to have for him. And he just is extremely anxious about his position, which, like, you know what, kid? You are right to be
that's
worried.
a reasonable reaction.
Yep.
I love the, what was it? There was a moment where, oh shit, I lost it that fast. God damn it. What was I getting ready to say?
I do not know.
Yep, it's gone.
You'll remember it later after we're done recording. I'm just trying to check and make sure that there's nothing else that we really wanted to talk about here. Just all the guys, like, trying to get one over on Robb just cracks me up. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it's pretty...
She says nothing of Arya, nothing, not so much as a word. And it says, Bran felt all cold inside. She lost her wolf, he said weakly. So, yeah, Bran's
there
like,
it is again.
Getting sort of the, probably the implications of what that means in a much grander sense. It's not just a metaphor.
No one else seems to really, at least in this moment, no one really engages him on this, this moment where he says that. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's because people aren't making the connection, or if it just seems like he's babbling about a wolf when they're all talking about, like, a little girl, and it just seems like it makes no sense.
Right.
God damn, I really wish I could remember what I was going to say about Bran, but I can't. It's gone.
There's the last sentence of the chapter is, Hodor, Bran agreed, wondering what it meant. And I don't know if the book, it's going to be the same, like, meaning behind the word.
Right.
I don't know if George came out and said whether or not that was, like, actually canon or not. But it's interesting. I'm curious about it. So, okay, let me go to Daenerys. Daenerys and Khal Drogo's glistening manhood. Glistening wetly in the candlelight.
Oh, boy.
It's very wet
and rewatch
and
season
shiny.
1 real quick.
Yeah, I gotta agree. It doesn't strike me quite as terrible when I am imagining Jason Momoa's glistening manhood. I gotta say
That's how I got through this chapter.
That's fair. That's fair. And they're having a conversation again about the Iron Throne, and he is basically coming down on we don't need that.
Listen, I don't have no interest in what y'all... Couch was like, I don't care what y'all white people do over there.
Mm-hmm. There's a real sort of sense to him of just like, well, we've got everything to make hamburgers at home. We don't need to stop there for that.
Who has McDonald's money? You have McDonald's money. But I don't want to cross the poison sea. What they got over there that's so important? Mm-hmm. I'm happy over here. And as a matter of fact, I think I might want to go east because shit over there looks interesting.
Yeah.
And she's trying to convey to him the importance of going, back to Westeros. And he is not interested.
Yeah.
It holds nothing for him. And she's a little frustrated with this. And she talks to Jorah about it. And he's just like, you have to be patient. You don't want to be like your brother. Mm-hmm. And I like that Daenerys is talking about how completely unafraid of practically everything or anything that Khal Drogo is, right? He's a fierce warrior, has never been defeated, but the thought of crossing the sea is like renders him unable to make a move,
right?
She's like, it's like borders on superstition, she says,
Mm-hmm.
And she's frustrated with his lack of motivation, his fear, which to her seems unreasonable, even though she ain't been to Westeros either.
And honestly, girl, they do have like a horse-based society, and I don't know if you've ever traveled with horses by water, but that is not pretty. I haven't, but I am willing to bet on it.
They do not care for it.
Yeah,
and it's I loved reading this bit because it's easy to, with the focus on getting back to the Iron Throne, especially with Viserys and all, it's easy to forget that she hasn't really been there. She doesn't know this land at all, except from the stories she's heard.
Yeah.
But her desire to go, I hate to use the word home, because in the chapter, when Jorah calls it home, even that doesn't feel right to her, because it's not really her home, right?
Right.
But her desire, not for power yet, but her desire to be back there is so strong. Which it didn't have to be. And she even says, like, I'm a Khaleesi here. I have, like, the most powerful, handsome, badass dude. I'm about to give birth to, like, the stallion that'll ride the world. I have everything I need. Like, why do I want to go back there? And she doesn't have a good answer, but she definitely wants to go back there.
Yeah, she does. And it makes you wonder what would have happened if she just decided, you know what, I'm going to let go of that.
Exactly. Like, there's. It's so early in the story. It doesn't feel to me yet like her insistence, her desire. What is it rooted in?
It doesn't feel to you like there is a root to it?
It doesn't make sense yet.
Gotcha.
Like, it's clearly important to her. It feels like it's important to her because she's been told her entire life from her brother that that's where she's supposed to be. But that was her brother's dream. Like, her brother dreamed of being king. It wasn't like she dreamed of being queen.
True.
But and now that her brother's gone, this need, this desire hasn't left. It didn't die with her brother.
Right.
And she seems confused by it, but she understands that it's really there and it's really strong. But she seems kind of like, why am I not, like, satisfied with what I have here? This is all great.
I feel like this is the kind of thing that happens to a lot of people that, like, get into jobs that they don't really care about the job necessarily, but then they begin to see how bad the people above them are at that job, and they're just like, oh my God, I could do this. Like, I could do this way better, actually. And yet, it never occurred to me to want this, and I'm not sure that I want it, but I am definitely, like, cut out for it. I could tell. It's just that sort of feeling of her being better,
probably better.
Yeah, her being, like, better than her brother at, like, internalizing this whole new culture and learning how to deal with people and the patience surrounding all of these things that she's beginning to realize are, like, maybe these are actual skills and not just accidents of my personality, which the sooner that we all begin to realize that a lot of the things we take for granted about ourselves are actual skills that are, like, maybe marketable, the better. Because we all sell ourselves way too short on that kind of shit.
Ooh, that's the truth.
Listen, you may be like, I only Google the answer to these questions. It's not like I already know. Can I tell you how many people don't know to Google the answer to shit? Like, it's crazy to me. My mother will literally say to me, where is the instructions? And I'm just like, Google. Google is the instruction. What do you mean? There's going to be a whole series of YouTube videos explaining how to do this in detail, step by step. What do you mean? You want a piece of paper that they sent with very vague, shitty instructions instead of to watch a human actually lead you through this? Anyway, it's a skill set. I'm just saying. So, yeah, I feel like Daenerys is there a little bit, She came in, she's got her, maybe her undergrad, and she thought that she was gonna be really the clueless noob. And instead, the guy that's supposed to be in charge is the clueless noob. And she's like, oh shit. Okay, wait. Maybe I should be, but she hasn't quite. It's a scary leap to make.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think the reason why she's not, like, 100% connecting to this desire to go home is because she doesn't quite yet see herself as leading.
Right.
You know? Like in her imagination, they go back to Westeros and she takes the throne, but Cal Drogo is like who's in charge.
Or her son,
you know?
that she is
or her
she
son.
is going to have.
Yeah. So she's not quite seeing herself as a leader yet, but she knows this is something that she wants. And she's having a hard time selling this to Khal Drogo until she goes out for a nice day at the market, and some guy tries to poison her with wine, which I think is the most duplicitous thing ever.
That is really rude.
Don't turn wine against us. How dare you?
This is all we have.
It's true. It really is all we have.
So yeah, the whole like lead up, she there's an explanation of how like this is the West Market, and this is what really like gets her feeling homesick for the house with the red door, and the scents are familiar. She really likes the East Market for adventure and trying things that she's never tried, and all of the stuff being really new and interesting. But when she's feeling like she wants some nostalgia, she goes to the West Market, and I really rather liked this because it made a lot of, I spent some time in Guatemala and in London, and there were little pockets that kind of made you feel like you were back in the U.S. And one of the ones in Guatemala, it was like a completely alien sort of neighborhood, except there was a McDonald's. And I would go there sometimes when I was feeling really homesick because it just sort of felt a little like home. It wasn't right though. Like I like that she gets these like skewers that she knows that she really likes, but when she tastes them, she's like, these aren't the same. And the woman's like, oh yeah, well normally I make them with pork, but this is horse meat. And she's like, oh, okay, because that's what it's like. You see like something on the menu and you're like. Okay, yeah, that's the thing that I like. And then the ketchup isn't like the same incredibly sugary ketchup or whatever. And you're just like, oh, this isn't quite right, though. And Jorah goes off by himself for a bit.
She thinks that's so weird. And she can't understand why he's going. He's like, I'm going to go see if there's like any mail for us. Basically is what he says.
Right.
And she's like, maybe he's going to get some pussy because he's being really weird and sketchy.
Yep.
And some men are like embarrassed about that. So
I love that bit. So yeah, she's talking to this wine merchant, and when he finds out who she is, he like falls all over himself to give her a gift, and it really does seem in the moment like it's just I'm trying to get my rep up, Got a special wine for you.
I was just going to give you this shit, but oh wait, you're who you are? Let me go get you my special fucking carafe. And it feels very organic and natural, you know. And then Jorah shows up.
Jorah's got the fucking face on,
just in time to be like, no, why don't you have some?
I love this bit so much because it hasn't occurred to her. And then when he starts to be like, you should really try it first. And this wine seller's like, what? Me? I could never. And all of a sudden she's like, no, I think you fucking should.
Yeah. How about you have some? Have some right now.
I love it so much.
Or if you don't have some,
I will have them hold you down and pour it down your throat.
Like, this is a woman who just like a few pages ago couldn't quite see, like, hasn't seen herself in her own mind's eye as being like in charge and being powerful. And then this quick, she's like, oh, I see what's happening here. All right, this is what we're about to do. Like that quick, she like just leans into it, and it's so natural.
I love it so much.
Yeah, same.
She's just like, or we will drown you. How about that? Or we could drown you in your own product in front of everybody. That is what will happen.
And then this raggedy motherfucker pushes a pregnant woman over and throws wine to her head.
I will never not laugh at somebody being called raggedy. I don't know why that fucking gets me every time, but I find that shit so funny.
I get that from my mom. That's like her favorite insult to tell somebody. This raggedy ass motherfucker said blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
I was like, oh, word, Mom, really? And then what did he say?
I don't know why, but yeah. And that applies to this man, I agree. And, oh, you know what? Real quick, I forgot that I wanted to mention all of the different types of people that are mentioned, because she's talking about folks from different lands that we don't actually, like, hear about on the show at all. Dark, solemn Ashai and tall, pale Carthene, the bright-eyed men of Yi Ti in monkey tail hats, warrior maids from Bayasabhad, Samriana, and Kayakanaya, with iron rings in their nipples and rubies in their cheeks. Did you hear about this motherfucker who got like a pink diamond embedded in his face?
Yes, girl, I did.
What?
It was fuck. I think I even posted something. I forget which one it was now, but yeah, I saw that shit. Like Lil Uzi, I think it was.
Is that his name?
Somebody. I don't quote me on that, guys. Y'all know I'm old. I don't know what's happening, but yeah. How do you even do that? That shit is worth like $2 million or something crazy.
I can't.
Or more.
And I just see myself like, I'm just washing my face and the shit falls out, goes right down the drain.
Somebody said that whole crystal gem head ass.
Oh my God.
I never thought I would stop laughing.
I don't know how I didn't even think of that. Oh my God, that's very good. I just like, why is that a thing that you even want? Like, what are you getting out of that?
I have no idea. But like, there's all kinds of like bets on how long before somebody like snatches him up and rips that shit out of his head. Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly.
And then I saw another quote, because I have no idea who this person is. But somebody else was like, nah. The way he bangs, ain't nobody coming for that. And I was just like, oh, word? So he's like a guy that you have to be scared of, but also he's like putting jewelry in his forehead. Like, how are both of those things true at the same time?
You know what? I gotta say, a man that gets a diamond embedded in his head does scare me. Like, I do find that frightening. Because you gotta just dig a hole in your skull, right?
What doctor did this?
That's really, you're asking the right question. Who did, what man did this?
It's fucking outlandish.
So anyway, I saw that highlighted, and I want to make sure we talked about those.
What I wanted, it wasn't Bran. I wanted to talk about Mage Mormont.
Oh, right, yes.
So there's a throwaway line about, because he says a couple pages earlier, he says Lady Mormont from Bear Island.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And of course, my brain went to fucking Lyanna Mormont.
Correct.
But then I was like, wait, this is way too early. She's probably like 7. That can't be her. And then they dropped the name, and I don't know anything about this character, but the way Bran describes her is she's all dressed up basically like a man, like she's in like armor and mail and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't see it for Robb, and she's like, you fucking be my grandson.
Right, yes.
And I was just like, oh, who is this lady? I want to hear more from her.
Yeah, this is actually a good example, because you were talking about how you felt like Arya was going to have to settle down. Mm. And I feel like this is a good example of why that's probably not true if you're a northerner.
Right. I love getting these kind of examples. I mean, we didn't get hardly any of them in the show.
It's true.
So yeah, I'm here for it.
Oh, and by the way, Austin Arminio, he's been sending me some notes, and a lot of them are stuff that just comes up in conversation anyway. But this is an explanation of what's going on with Mage versus the show. He says, in the show, they simplify Mage's kids, having her only daughter be Lyanna. In the books, she has 5 daughters: Daisy, Alysain, Lyra, Jarell, and Lyanna. So some of them
and Lyanna's the youngest.
Some of them we won't. Yes, she is.
So what happened to everybody else?
They just were cut for time.
So not necessarily part of the storyline.
Exactly. Yeah. They just boiled it down to just the one.
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, that should be fun to hear about. Oh, exciting.
This is the kind of stuff that I really do enjoy about the books, and I totally understand why the show has not got time or interest. But it is fun to hear about all the little side bits and extra family members, because sometimes they'll pull some shit. They're not necessarily like key to the plot, but they'll do something that you're like, oh, okay, I see what's happening over here.
Yeah, there was a bit in Bran's chapter where he's talking about the Karstarks, and he's like, they are supposedly distant Stark relatives, and he's like, but they don't look like Starks to me. And then they're like all like really, really big. And there's no explanation for like why they don't look like the rest of the Starks, but I just thought it was really funny.
Well, I mean, you got your explanation in Ryan Reisman's status. I thought that you...
That's true. That is true.
I
didn't know if that was canon, but
it is indeed canon. He got his facts correct for his embarrassing post about how he is at parties. For those interested, I'll read what Austin enclosed here. Stark bannermen at Winterfell. An interesting thing about the Starks and their bannermen versus Southern lords and their bannermen. In the South, the bannermen of the lords are usually the descendants of people raised to lordship by that lord or monarch in the past. In the North, almost all of the vassals were kings in their own right who were conquered by the ancient Starks but were allowed to keep their land as long as they swore fealty.
So the North is just full of, like, low-key royalty. Like, these are all, like, great houses that ran their own shit.
Yeah.
Until they didn't.
Exactly.
As opposed to in the South, where they sort of, like, put people in positions of power that were already sort of, like, loyal to them.
Yes, exactly. It was a reward system for people that you liked, rather than something that was, like, purely hereditary and...
That makes it feel like the Northerners are going to be, which would make sense for how they're portrayed in the show anyway, as being like very, let me think of a diplomatic way to say this. Being very stubborn and very careful about who they swear or swore fealty to, like very particular. Where in the South, like, whoever's in power gets loyalty.
Right. Okay, by the way, I found Ryan Reisman's post.
Oh, awesome.
House Karstark started out, I'm reading this like it's in all caps, because it is. House Karstark started out as a cadet branch of House Stark, and they were originally known as House Stark of Karlshold. It was named after Carlin Stark, who, despite being the youngest son of the king in the north, was granted a lordship and lands after putting down a rebellion from House Bolton. As time went on, Karlshold became Carhold, and the Karlshold Starks became the Karstarks. Do you want anything to drink?
I also love that in that rant, there's a quick line about how the Boltons have not been shit since forever.
Uh-huh.
Have they always been like this?
I feel like their ancientness is also hereditary. Goes down the line.
They just got raggedy genes.
They, like, look. When you just decide that you're going to, like, skin your enemies... That has to be in your DNA. It. That is like, I think that is a flaw in the fucking programming. And
that is correct.
Yeah.
No coming back from that.
But they're like, it's a feature. So this dude tries to run, and they wind up catching him because it's really not even a contest at all.
Yeah.
I think it's what's his name? He is the guy with the fucking whip.
Is it Aggo?
Maybe Drogo.
Drogo. Oh, okay.
But yeah, because they aren't allowed to carry weapons, so they're reaching for their rocks, and then they're like, "Oh shit, they don't have them." So the guy gets caught around the neck with the whip, which is rough.
I mean. Listen, he made his choice.
I'm not like saying I feel bad for him, but like that is not a way that I want to be caught when I'm running full fucking tilt. Thank you very much.
I mean, I might be into it under other circumstances, but not these particular.
Have you seen that fucking Reductress headline? how not to be aroused by the your turtleneck lightly choking you all day. They are so good. I swear to God, I just want to be friends with everybody who works there.
Oh, Jesus Christ. They really are good, though.
So it turns out that he read a letter from Magister Illyrio about how they were going to try and kill her. And that there has been basically a bounty put on her brother, and her unborn child's head.
That's what he says.
Yeah.
And Daenerys is like, these motherfuckers don't even know that my brother is dead. And I can't even take them seriously.
Mm-hmm. They have old information.
Mm-hmm.
None of them work for the Huffington Post. So the dude winds up just like, I had forgotten that they don't just kill him.
No.
He winds up like tied up behind her horse, and they're just like, keep up.
Yeah.
Which he will not.
Rude. And I think there's a moment where she, after like all the excitement is, done, she takes her dragon eggs and puts them in fire.
Right.
And is like expecting something. And then, of course, nothing happens, and she feels like it, like an idiot. Like, of course, nothing would happen. These are dead things, know. And again, because I've seen the show, I know where we're going with that.
Right.
But this moment of her, because this idea of like who's the dragon, and her doing this with the eggs, it's a real moment of kind of like almost like her exploring her potential.
Yes, totally.
And then because it's not said in so many words, but it feels like after what she's been through in the market, and maybe almost losing the baby, like the way she's pushed, the girls have to grab her so she doesn't land on her belly, and then like the way she was forceful with the wine cellar, she's really kind of like, well, what am I? Like, is it possible? And then nothing happens, and it's kind of like a womp womp kind of moment,
It is indeed.
But I can only imagine what it would have been like to read these unspoiled and have this moment, and then know a little bit down the line we're going to have that other moment, and it must have just been like bananas to read,
Yeah.
I mean, it was fucking bananas to just watch on TV, so.
It's just, yeah. I hate to, because in the end, Drogo comes back, and he's all just like, look at this cool white lion I killed for you, this is rad. And she's like, yeah, that's really cool, somebody tried to kill me, and he's like, oh, hold on.
They did what now? Who did what? Oh, word?
So he tells fucking, first of all, Jorah, he's like, you can have any horse you want. Not mine or hers, but other than that, any horse you fucking want.
Which is a big deal.
And then, to Rhaego, son of Drogo, the stallion who will mount the world, to him I also pledge a gift. To him I will give this iron chair his mother's father sat in. I will give him 7 kingdoms. I, Drogo, Khal, will do this thing. I will take my Khalasar west to where the world ends and ride the wooden horses across the black salt water as no Khal has done before. I will kill the men in the iron suits and tear down their stone houses. I will rape their women, take their children as slaves, and bring their broken gods back to Vias Dothraki to bow down beneath the mother of mountains. This I vow, I, Drogo, son of Barbo. This I swear before the mother of mountains as the stars look down in witness.
So, kids, except for the little line about raping the women.
And enslaving the children.
And that too.
She's like,
this is hot as fuck. I want a man to proclaim some shit for me.
Same.
But yeah, no, he is like no interest in doing any of this, and then finds out they came for his girl, and he's like, oh, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's what you want to do. All right.
I was going to leave you alone, but you decided that you wanted to play right up in my face.
And exactly. And that kind of energy will always be attractive.
It's true. I mean, this is what attracted me to Owen, was the fact that he, like, really stood up for me when somebody was coming for me online in a way that was, like, not fair or appropriate. And he just decided he had time and sat down and engaged with this person for, like, a straight-up hour and just ripped them apart. And that was like, that was what got my attention about him, because Brendan would straight up ignore people. And I had to ask Brendan to get involved more than once, because he was reading all the responses and saw how upset I was getting, and it never even entered his mind to comment himself. Which I just like, what? What is that like? What? Yeah. So, look, we just want somebody that's on our side.
It's true.
You know, like...
And please, if you're listening and you don't know any better, don't make any comments about feminism.
Oh my God.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it.
I just want somebody that's on my side. There's nothing, like, anti-feminist about that.
Oh, you want to fight your own battles and you want to be equal.
Well, if you want to be equal so bad, how about I punch you in the face?
It's fucking exactly. Oh, equal rights. Can I punch you now? Like, what is wrong
You could try.
You?
Go ahead.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Let's see how that works out for you.
I love when people say
it's not going to be well.
Like, yeah, I could give you my permission and stand here stock ass still and you wouldn't punch me in the face, and you know it, so go sit the fuck down.
But indeed.
So, yes, it ends with them riding west, and the wine cellar is tied to her horse in disgrace.
I love that he's tied to her horse, too.
Yes.
That's like really important to me for some reason.
So, yeah, that's the end of these chapters.
Yeah.
Maybe cakes.
I'm enjoying my time in this world that I know but don't know super well.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm excited. We're really starting to get into it now.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I'm going to do new patrons next week because we're running late, and it has been a week. This is going to be going up the same week that we recorded it. I just got power back, like, this morning, and internet back, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to record, but it worked out. Reminder to all of you that next week is Rashawn's birthday, so she's taking the week off from recording, so there will not be an episode next week of Dresden Files or Song of Ice and Fire. And I feel like there was another announcement that I was going to make. I don't remember. Just that I had to reschedule Spoil Me's, I guess, because having no power, I had to miss a bunch of recordings, obviously. Oh, there won't be a Mistborn. That was the one I was going to say. So, yeah, I apologize for having to miss that, but nature is a bitch, and
so is Texas.
Governor Abbott is the worst human being, and
it's true.
It sucks here. So that's where I'm at. But I'm really lucky because a lot of people still don't have power, and the fact that we have power and internet, because we got power back like one day, and we didn't have internet. And let me tell you, having power but no internet is just such a fucking tease.
Like, what's the point?
Oh my God.
What's the fucking point? Just have all the shit be cut off then. Like, what are you doing?
It's like, at least I was warm, but like, for what?
Warm and bored.
I'm so bored. It is just astonishing. I know, like, I could read a book.
Read a book?
I'm just like, I read for work. And so in my spare time, I don't do... It's just... Look, I'm high maintenance. It's fine. But yeah, it was just really boring. And I also, like, when you know that you have work that you need to be doing and you can't, that also, like, keeps it from being fun and relaxing because you're just anxious. So I just spent the whole day yesterday just being like vaguely fucking humming with that irritation.
Yeah, because every moment is like I'm supposed to be doing something else and it's not getting done, which means I'm going to have to rush and do it later or double up and do it later.
Yep.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, this was actually another one that I meant to mention. Jamie had a conflict with our normal recording time, so we won't be having a Doctor Who episode next week again. Last week was my fault. This week is her fault. But that did lead to me having the afternoon free, so I was able to make up for the Spoil Me's that I missed on Tuesday. So Spoil Me's are going to be on Thursday this week. Bly Manor, Broadchurch, and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. But by the time this is up, those will be over, so I guess I don't know why I'm telling you all of that. I'm just saying you should listen to Spoil Me episodes. They're fun, and I'm really enjoying Bly Manor. Did you watch that?
I have not watched it.
What a fucking weird show. I really like it so far. It's very, like, trippy here and there. I was not ready for that.
This is like the Haunting of Hill House anthology that they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So like it's the same people, but just a different set of characters and story.
It's not the same people.
No, I'm sorry. I mean like the same people behind it.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not like American Horror Story where they use like
not like the same cast or nothing.
Yeah. But I didn't finish Hill House. So I don't know how I liked that show. I like Bly Manor more so far than I liked Hill House, just because I found Hill House really confusing because it was like a lot of oval-faced, dark-haired white women who look all the same, and I got really confused.
That was true. That was a thing.
I just like kept on being like, but I thought that was so, and then I realized like, oh no. But yeah, anyway, so I'm covering that stuff, and also Broadchurch is like so good.
It's so good.
And so you guys should check that out. And I feel like that's everything. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, ma'am. I'm just going to be chilling for the birthday, not doing a whole lot. I got a lot of really cool presents from listeners, which was great. And we have an Unsober coming up on the 27th, which is after my birthday, but we're going to do a little birthday thing.
Yes.
So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that, too.
I'm excited about that. Did you save any presents to open on that day? Well, you have the presents I told you not to open.
Yeah, I have the ones you told me not to open.
Okay, well, that's something.
Yeah, because a lot of people that send stuff aren't, like, at the tier to watch Unsober.
That's true.
So, yeah.
So, if you guys are interested in hanging out for her birthday, you can become a $20 patron. Patreon.com/unspoiled. And the Unsobers are twice a month. And we do them on various topics. The last one was on Ghost, which was very fun. I enjoyed Ghost a lot more than I expected.
Yeah.
And, we always are looking for new subject matter. So I feel like I had an idea for the one coming up after your birthday, but I don't remember now. Everybody hit me with ideas for that.
We take suggestions.
Indeed. Call in with your request now.
First time caller, long time.
All right, guys. Well, thank you again so much for listening. We hope you've been enjoying, and we will see you in 2 weeks with a new episode. Until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
Joffrey, Cersei, Walder Frey, Meryn Trant, Tywin Lannister.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.